This is an open invitation to all warriors, all comers, north, south, east and west, to participate in the first ever Baphomet Battle Royale at No Apologies, Jersey City, April the 5th. Be there.
Welcome, everybody, to the Armchair Bookers Podcast, a podcast all about wrestling from all walks of life. We got The Ref, we got Stoney, we got Fridge, we got Doc, and we got JK. How you guys doing today? That was the first time I hit that intro. The first time.
Mine was better.
First take.
Third.
Yeah, third. It never takes me three. It's usually just one.
We botched that a little bit. And speaking of botches, we have some stuff to talk about in the lead up to WrestleMania. And that is all signs pointing to the lovely main event that has been booked into oblivion. We'll get to that. But where are we starting off there, JK?
Well, we're going to go ahead and talk about a bunch of things tonight. We got some Raw and SmackDown recap. We got some of our top WrestleMania moments coming your way, and we got our match of the week, so stay tuned for that. I just want to thank everybody for listening to our podcast. If you're a first-time listener, you could check us out on the Apple Podcast app, over on Spotify and Google Play, and over on Podbean. If you dig what you're hearing, please subscribe, comment, and leave us a rating wherever you're listening, and support the podcast by checking out the Armchair Bookers on ProWrestlingTees.com/ArmchairBookersPodcast. We got some stuff over on YouTube. We got some stuff on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. But check us out on Instagram, because we're doing a lot of cool shit over there. Talk about it, guys. Oh, by the way, didn't we put up a new shirt on Pro Wrestling Tees today?
Did we?
That's Stoney 420, baby. What up?
Stoney 420, baby.
That was the most seductive I've ever heard somebody talk in the entire world. It's like, hey, baby girl, you know what you need to do right now is you need to go over to ProWrestlingTees.com/ArmchairBookersPodcast. Scroll on down to that Stoney 420 t-shirt, buy it an extra small, and just put it on, baby.
Listen, my girlfriend tells me I got a sexy voice, all right? So I'll hit him with that.
My mom tells me I have a nice voice too, Steve.
Your mom tells me.
Your mom tells me I have a nice voice as well. I was saying my girlfriend to be respectful.
What did you guys think of Monday Night Raw this week?
It was adequate in certain areas, a little weak in certain areas. Some stories look like they're getting some decent attention, but the other ones just seem to be kind of lacking. The tag team titles over on that side, I'm not really interested so much. But Seth had a great promo. Triple H had a great promo. That's a good build into that story a little bit more. I'm really into the Triple H and Batista stuff. I was never into Batista. I'm digging this. Really, I am. I don't know exactly why, but I am. I think it was the way Batista came back into it and just I'm believing him as being real douchey, even though he just seems like a really cool guy, actually. But it's a cool character that he's playing and it's working.
You know, it's interesting. A lot of heels come out and they get heel heat by shitting on the fans, shitting on everybody. Really, Batista's just saying, I have always been used by Triple H to make his image better. And the thing is, it's something where, like, we haven't seen this in a heel in a long time, I don't think. Like, him coming out believing his own hype so much as opposed to just bitching about the crowd.
Yeah. It's funny though, because Triple H was reading the letter from the lawyer and he's like saying how Batista has just come to the realization that Triple H was using Evolution to prolong his title reign, and Triple H is like, duh, it took him 13 years to figure that out, like obviously.
That was amazing.
I like that there's two sides to Batista. There is the crazy, manic, give me what I want. And then there's also the, I don't want to be in Philly because I don't like Philly. I got nothing to do. My schedule's empty. I just don't want to be there. Like, it's just, like, he's playing two heels at once. Batista did on Instagram.
That was Pittsburgh. Philly?
He said Philly.
Yo, Batista, I'm not happy with you right now, man. We're going to talk about that in a minute now. talk about my city again. That's just not going to work.
Oh, my boy is sour now.
Oh, man, you bring up Phillies, we got problems.
Bautista is back.
Let's talk about that Seth promo a little bit, man. I think he's doing some good work against Paul Heyman, who undoubtedly is one of the masters of the mic over the last decade, even over the last 20, 30 years in his various iterations. Yeah. But no, I think Seth was able to hold his own against it. I thought it was cool. I really appreciate Seth Rollins, and I know like they're not shining a huge light on the Universal title right now because of, you know, Becky and Ronda and Charlotte and all that, which we'll get into. But he's holding his own, man. That is still one of the matches I'm really interested in seeing.
Yeah, the Universal title and Seth Rollins are going to get all the light and respect that they deserve right as WrestleMania finishes, because that is going to be, for me, I think, the highlight of just finally getting that title off Brock Lesnar.
I really like the way Paul Heyman cuts promos. I think it's the only thing that makes the whole Brock Lesnar character palatable.
Yeah.
Like, I did not get a chance to watch the Seth promo because I'm still working on a subscription, but if I know how Paul is, and like every Paul promo is if he's talking to another opponent, because when you're on the mic, you're facing Paul Heyman. He will slip in softballs for you to crush, so you can get heat and get over. But if you miss them, he's gonna bury you. Yep. So he wants you to succeed. He throws you softballs, but if they go over his head, you're going to get crushed.
And I like how he makes it not his problem. You know, if he crushes you, he crushes you. He basically goes, I gave you what to speak about, now touch upon it. And this is the first time that I think Paul Heyman has gotten, not necessarily physical, but that Seth Rollins has gone up and really gotten in the face of Paul Heyman. And I think that's what really sold this one 2 weeks out from WrestleMania.
He got up in his face and then dropped the mic on him.
Yeah.
I just wish the crowd was more behind him there. Like, that was your moment, guys.
Yeah, they dropped the ball a little bit.
Like, I could tell it was coming. And everyone was like, burn it down.
Like, the crowd have seemed to be kind of weak. And I don't want to hear, if it's booked better. There's been really good stuff happening. No, the crowds have been really weak.
Yeah, they've been dead at even the really good segments.
Yeah, so I don't want to hear any of that nonsense.
You know where there was a lot of heat? I thought the Roman and Drew stuff. Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre, like, look, okay, WWE has made it obvious that they're just going to lean in real hard to Roman Reigns' situation with Drew McIntyre. Look, I'm okay with it because they're not going over the top with it. And they're positioning Drew to start winning matches now. And Roman Reigns coming out going, Roman Reigns accepts your challenge. But this is Joe, the guy talking. Don't you fuck with my kids. I added fucking. He didn't say fucking. But then he just kind of gave him a lashing. But they're making both these guys look good. I'm really happy with how they're making McIntyre look. And this goes back to something Fridge said a little bit ago. Make the man win. And they're making Drew win.
Yeah, I really hope that they go with the result that would make the most sense in terms of long story looking. I know it's going to be a feel-good moment to see Roman go over, but there's a lot of ways for Roman not to and to protect them both. They've been able to do that with McIntyre, you know, for since he's debuted, where he's taken some losses, but it's a really nice protected loss. He can do that again. You know, Roman can do that. I don't want Drew to lose. I'm saying they can do that. They can do it the reverse side. They can still make Roman look fine with Drew winning, and Roman's going to come out of that looking fine no matter what.
Drew has to win.
It really should go to Drew. I'm always worried about that because WrestleMania is a different kind of story. A lot of big stars have beaten people that should not have been beaten. Rusev and Cena being one of those situations.
I
feel like Drew loses. I think Drew's got to win. I think it'll propel him to the moon if he wins. It'll put him in Universal title contention. They're obviously setting it up for after Seth wins, Drew McIntyre's the next feud. And what better way to do that by having him... Because all you got to do is in that match at Mania is make it look like Roman has a little bit of rust, or he makes a miscue he doesn't really make because he's been out for so long. Claymore 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. There's many ways to do it and do it the right way for the right person to win. And it's got to be Drew, especially if like who would be next to move over. What would be the sense of him coming out and saying, "Now I'm going for the title," if he loses to Roman the night before?
The thing
and
is,
who else is in line for a belt run?
You're right.
Roman.
Yeah, but exactly. Yeah, Roman could be a great story going up against Seth.
Remember,
I think
Roman laid that belt down for this battle with leukemia. And that being said, he officially never lost a belt. Lesnar picked up that belt and ran with it until this WrestleMania match. So if you did have Roman go over, then this is the big dog's chance to say, let's see who is the big dog here. Let's burn it down.
I think that's cramming too much. I think that's cramming too much into letting Roman get back into the swing of things and breathe. The interviews I've heard, but the interviews I've heard, it's at this point it's a little bit different outlook for him. It's not necessarily about what he used to be. He's more of he wants to enjoy this experience. He wants to grow more into everything. It sounds to me like he's fully ready to work his way into everything and just see how it goes. Obviously, he's a moneymaker, but Seth earned this, deserves it, and they need to see the money in him. Roman doesn't have to be anywhere near it. He's in good shape right now.
But who's to say Roman's going to walk away with a belt? Yeah, just saying that he's in it.
Certainly.
It would be great, even if it was Seth and Roman's at SummerSlam, just to push that more believability in,
I agree, except that my only other point to it is Seth is hugely over, right? Roman is over because people are genuinely happy to see somebody succeed and come back from it. Don't blend those two right now. Because again, you're going to force people to take sides, and that's what everybody's been doing against Roman since the beginning.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, keep that part of that story away for a considerable amount of time.
Agreed.
So you got to go face to a heel, feud when Seth wins. My opinion, of course.
I think to kind of wrap this up in a bow before we move on, I completely agree with I agree with Doc and Ref. I think they need to go into a traditional heel face feud because they need to build up McIntyre. I'm going to throw out one of my oddball booking scenarios. You can run that feud between Seth and Drew till July because August is SummerSlam. If Dean Ambrose re-signs Shield Triple Threat at SummerSlam for the Universal title,
I can get behind that.
It doesn't need to be like someone needs to turn heel. It can literally be three faces, brothers, spirit of competition, and then you have a heel turn at the end of the match.
I'm personally on Shield, oversaturation, so nothing sounds good to me when it involves all three of them, personally. Now, if we're going to talk triple threat, though, we got to get into Raw and talk about the three ladies involved in the triple threat at the WrestleMania main event and the burying of the Riot Squad in a beat the clock challenge that served no other purpose than no purpose. It served no purpose. I'm really getting frustrated with this storyline. Really getting frustrated.
Me too.
There's just so many monkey wrenches they're throwing into it.
There's no reason for all this.
No, there's no reason whatsoever. You have this beat the clock challenge where the Riot Squad gets buried. You have Ronda set this ridiculous time. You have Charlotte not be able to win. And then you have Becky win with 7 seconds to go, right? So it's what's the point of all of this, right? There's really no storytelling that's really happening there. But then I'm going to kind of lead us into SmackDown with this one because I feel like that's where this needs to go anyway. And then you have the story that happens on SmackDown. Charlotte versus Asuka.
It's awful.
I fucking hate it.
Dude,
I'm so mad about it. I'm so mad about this. I don't understand it.
This was a genuinely, naturally hot story developed through actual emotion and the crowd responding and Becky taking the ball and running with it. And they have buried every cool aspect of this story. Ronda has contributed to it 90%. Charlotte has contributed, 50-50 actually. Charlotte and Ronda have destroyed this. The summer of Becky is over. Charlotte is Kevin Nash to CM Punk.
I almost called an impromptu recording after I heard this news because I needed somebody to curse at. Like, I was so mad. Because what does that do? What does that do? I feel like this has been the recurring theme for the last 3 months, where I'm like, hey, if this happens, the women's division's gonna be nothing.
No, because you know what happened? 2 weeks before WrestleMania, they realized, oh shit, if we want to have the 4 horsewomen of WWE all holding gold, how are we supposed to make this happen with Charlotte in this match?
Longer care about
no, of course.
that.
I don't give a shit about it either.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about it either. But the fact of the matter is that's the story that they're trying to tell, and they realized 2 weeks before WrestleMania that they fucked up, and that Charlotte should be facing Asuka at Mania for the belt.
Guess what? There's no fucking story to tell when one of your main eventers, as soon as they're done on TV, goes to Twitter and goes, "That was fake."
Well,
it was a goddamn photo that was photoshopped because that event hasn't happened yet of Charlotte, Becky, Bayley, and Sasha Banks standing in the ring with all 4 titles and fucking balloons, confetti, and explosions going off in the background. It was a fucking Photoshop job. You know why I bring that up? Because that shit didn't happen yet. Because maybe, just maybe, it wasn't the time to fucking have it happen. It would be really cool if there was a story loading up to it. Great. But like, okay, now Charlotte's got the fucking SmackDown Women's Championship with no build and no reason to fight Asuka. Asuka looks like a punk. The whole SmackDown division of women looks like punks. And there's no reason for the SmackDown Women's Championship to be in that triple threat match unless all of a sudden on Monday or Tuesday they go, oh, let's add that belt to the stipulation. But then there's no fucking point because now you just confuse the entire story. And like Ref said, that you made cool. Becky got over. Becky is going crazy. And now you just literally took her and just shoved her back down to the ground.
I tried to wrap my head around this when I saw it because, of course, my question goes to what are they doing to Asuka? How are they going to rebuild this? Because her big thing in NXT was being the unstoppable monster. And she's been beaten twice in 2 weeks before WrestleMania. Now, going away from that, why did they have to do this? Because what else did Charlotte Flair bring to this feud? You looked at Becky Lynch. She brings the fans. You look at Ronda Rousey. She brought the gold. Then you look at Charlotte Flair. What did she bring to this 3-way dance? They had to give something to her. So what did they do? And I said it in a group text to you guys. Shame on you, WWE, for doing what you did to Asuka on Tuesday night by ripping that belt off of her. WrestleMania should have been a championship moment for that woman. She had no reason to lose that belt with the momentum that she had. She lost that belt because your pick in Charlotte Flair brought nothing to the main event at WrestleMania, and you guys couldn't live with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What Meltzer come out and said the decision was made because they didn't want to add a 17th or 18th match for the SmackDown Women's title, so they decided to shove it on the main event. What kind of booking is that?
They pulled the belt. The decision for that was made the day of the show. The original concept was going to be for the four women who really lost out. You're talking Lana, Naomi, Carmella, and forget who the fourth one was, and I apologize in advance for
Sonya Deville, Mandy Rose.
Oh yeah, five. It was supposed to be a fatal 5-way for the number one contender for that belt. Completely got scrapped, so that buries all of them. Look, this whole thing, and then we'll move on. Unless anybody else has a point, of course. This is my final point. The women's revolution is totally wrapped up in two people. It was Ronda. It was marketing ploy for Ronda and Charlotte. Becky threw a monkey wrench into it all when she got super popular, and they panicked, and it's ridiculous. And it's just showing that the women's revolution it's no different for anybody else unless it's those two. and it buries everybody. It's
unfortunately, they forced the evolution down our throats after seeing what it was turning into, rather than letting it come organically like it did. And this is what it came to.
They marketed it instead of letting it be what it was, which is just this organic, amazing development and a push for women's wrestling. That was great.
They have so much quality organic talent on the roster. You look at people like The Miz, right? This dude cut one of the best promos. The last couple of weeks leading up to WrestleMania, he's been cutting some of the best promos I've ever seen. Like the passion that's coming from this man, the heel that we're getting in Shane McMahon. As much as I'm not a fan of it, I can appreciate what he's trying to do.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, he's playing a decent heel, but paint by numbers heel.
Yes, exactly.
You know what,
and that's
though?
why I'm not a fan of it.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it just because I think you can take any McMahon and paint them into a paint by numbers situation, and just by merit of them being a McMahon with lots of money, with lots of just organic power that they have, they're going to fit very well into the heel role. The thing with Miz for me that always gets me is he's such a good heel. Miz is such a good bad person. But like in the last 4 or 5 years, he's become even better since he started with the Hollywood gimmick. He became, this person who thought he was bigger than he was, even though a lot of the movies he was in were not of that credential for him to do so. But when you saw him become a good guy before, it seemed very much just like the playing to the fans thing. This good guy is not a good guy who's all about the fans. He's about getting revenge on a guy that screwed him and embarrassed him in front of his dad. Like, dude, who can't get behind that story? If I got the shit kicked out of me in front of my dad, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to kill whoever did it. That is such a good story, and it's literally just those two. Even if he had to run through security, run through some of the job squad on SmackDown, whatever the case may be, he was able to sell that story from being a bad guy X amount of years ago and just not even 2 months ago. And it's really cool for me to see.
Yeah, and he's another one that kind of naturally turns because he's so good at what he does. And it's a sin because the crowd, the crowd is reacting because he's really good, plain and simple. When he's a heel, he's really good as a heel. When he's this organic face turn that he's kind of in right now is just amazing because he's still the passion. Everything he's saying is still like with that awesome fire. It all started when he came at Daniel Bryan, when he got at him on Talking Smack. And all of a sudden you're like, holy crap, he elevated again. Miz is great. You look at his career, it's very underrated, and I think it will be for a very long time. He levels up. Every handful of years, he levels up. His character tweaks. His approach tweaks. He grows in the ring. He grows personality-wise. He adds layers. You want to talk about a wrestling, somebody that needs to be talked about. You're talking about those kind of guys. Those guys that stayed relevant, stayed right where they need to be, upper mid-card, lower main event, but are always capable of moving in either direction because they're always that good. That's The Miz. He's incredible.
I'll tell you this. He is probably the most underrated on the mic.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
In all of professional wrestling.
He'll never get his just dues. He never will because of where he came from, reality TV. And I'll be honest, I was not ready to give it to him until probably around the Daniel Bryan stuff when he added that new layer of it's a little bit more than just that dude who plays one way or the other. Even when he was a heel in a lot of scenarios, you felt like he was playing heel and it was just like that nasty kind of stuff. It continued to evolve, and his most recent heel turn was phenomenal. He was an amazing heel. The Daniel Bryan work was terrific. So I'm really pumped for The Miz and just super excited to see the match with Shane because of this story more so than what the match is even going to be.
Absolutely. And if we're talking about exciting storylines, here's one that I've been going back and forth with. Y'all have been listening for a few episodes here. We've been talking about it off pod. Kofi Mania,
JK,
man.
Get off the fucking fence already, bro. Get off the fucking fence.
Yo, listen, I got some words to say. I got some words to say about Kofi Mania here, all right? So I was talking with Ref off pod a little bit. And, okay, I'm back on the Kofi train. But
Get it.
wait.
You.
So I'm back on the Kofi train, but I gotta say, I'm really happy for what WWE is doing with Kofi. The problem is I don't like it at the expense of the New Day. Meaning, I still think that the New Day, Big E and Xavier, are the ones that are doing the heavy lifting for Kofi. Kofi had the gauntlet match the first time, great, but it was something that he was just in. Then he had the Elimination Chamber, okay. Then he had the gauntlet match where he actually had to put down, and they screwed him. I get it, okay.
Yeah.
That was a bad booking decision by WWE. But then you make the New Day go out and do what they did and win, which was great. It was such a feel-good moment. You want to know who the star of this story is? In my humble opinion, Big E, man. Big E has been the star of the Kofi Mania story, just highlighting Kofi. When he was fighting against the Bar, and there was that one point where the announcer said, does he have anything left in him? And you saw that face of just internal struggle, like he had nothing left. But he took down the straps, and he went to town, man. Like, listen, I've been a big fan of Big E for a while, but that was really the selling moment for me. I feel like they've really bungled the story up with making Kofi the main focus, but I'm happy for what's going to happen at Mania.
Yeah. I like what they've done as far as letting the story kind of evolve to now where you see how everybody in the backstage area has gotten behind him too. It's not just the fans, you know. You had the Usos come out.
And Becky right up front.
Right. Yeah. You had Kevin Owens and Becky right up front leading the charge on that. But you had the Usos come out in the middle of that match. The SmackDown Live Tag Team Champions come out in that match and forfeit. Yeah. They looked them dead in the face and said, good luck, New Day. We forfeit. And walked out the ring. Like the classiest move I've ever seen.
Hell yeah.
Mad respect for that.
The only way that this makes storytelling sense, because I agree with John to some extent. I've been Kofi Mania the whole way through. I've been Kofi Media. God damn it. I've been Kofi Mania the whole way through. But he's right. The New Day looks strong. Kofi doesn't look strong. Kofi's doing amazing things. He's showing he's not a B+ player, but when it's time to speak, he just looks sad. And that doesn't work for me. It looks like he looks beaten down. It almost looks like he's tired of trying. Like I don't get it. I don't know what they're trying to play up. The only way that this gets redeemed is next Tuesday, final Tuesday before WrestleMania. Vince McMahon come out, Kofi, you got your match. I'm proud of you. You really proved yourself. But to me, you're still always going to be a B+ player. And then that's when Kofi goes, all right, Vince, I get that. If that's the way you feel, fine. And then he troubles in paradises him. He needs to I want to see the SOS. He needs to strike down Vince. Like
he needs to hit it with the SOS.
I don't think Vince is flexible enough for the SOS.
Yeah.
No chance in hell, but it would be cool.
He needs to strike down the man after he gets what he wants. This is a stone cold move. After he gets what he wants, he needs to strike down the boss to really drive the point home. Now, leading into post Kofi Mania, when Kofi obviously wins the title and beats Daniel Bryan, if you want to create tension and you want to make Big E a star, the easiest way to do it is have Big E win the Money in the Bank ladder match, because he's going to be holding that briefcase right next to his brother in arms, who has the highest gold in the land. So every week you could play up a little more, be like, oh, Kofi gets in trouble. Maybe Big E looks at the briefcase. You start to build that tension, and then eventually action.
I'm still waiting for.
You should do this for a living, baby.
I'm still waiting for the Evolution Batista Randy Orton drop. And that's what I want to see happen at Mania. I'm sorry, guys. I know. And I'm a fan of New Day just like everybody else. But those three players, they all have game. And New Day was entertaining. But now let's see what they can do for the wrestling skills instead of just the entertainment skills. I really think that the WWE turned these three wrestlers into something phenomenal, but they turned them into a cartoon. And this would be a great opportunity for them to once again break away from the stable to build something again for their solo careers.
I want to build on something kind of connecting all of what you said, but kind of jumping off of Fridge's point. I would love for Big E to win Money in the... I forget where everything is in terms of Money in the Bank and all that, but I would love for Survivor Series, right? It's a champion versus champion match. Just, let's say Kofi holds it that long, and it's Kofi against the Universal Champion at the time. They both go head-to-head. One wins. It's like a blowout, drag-out brawl. And that's when Big E cashes in Money in the Bank. And you think he's going to cash it in on the Universal Champion, and he cashes in it on Kofi. Because then you're really cementing, it's not just for the championship. You're cementing, it's because it's fucking you. I know I can beat you. I know that it was me that got you this opportunity. And I'm going to take it away. And that would be a really cool, I think, visceral feud to, like, book.
No.
Well, they're not going to let. They're not. Here's the big problem with this. When it came to the Intercontinental, or when it came to the tag team titles, it was easy to declare free bird rules and allow the three to compete and choose who are the two defending the tag team championship, because that was a rule set a long time ago. But how are the three going to hold a world championship? One man's going to shine the spotlight, and then the other two are going to get kind of fed up, especially after what we saw last week when they're the ones that opened the door and got him into the dance when he couldn't get the job done himself because it kept on becoming powered onto him.
Absolutely. And you can even have Vince at one point love Big E and be like, you're the muscle guy, you're the big guy, you're the A+ player, and build into that if you really chose to go down that road.
Two things. I just want to jump in here. No to all of you. Leave New Day alone. Stop it. Leave them alone. I don't want to get into why. I don't want to get emotional about it. You guys have all heard me a million times. They print money. They're amazing. Keep them together. They have some time before you have to even worry about breaking them up. There's a million other people that could step into the role of being Kofi's first feud. Somebody that is a good way for him to get over, get a couple months in, and see what momentum he can keep. The other point is that I wish that the gauntlet matches were reversed. I will say that. I think that would have been more ideal in terms of the way the story is being told. But, you know, I really love the Kofi stuff. I have from the beginning. Been a very big, strong advocate for it all. I'm excited to see what happens at Mania. And I'm hoping he wins, but I have some ideas as to if he doesn't, what we could see. So we shall see. I do like the Money in the Bank idea for Big E. I don't want to see any more breakups. This AEW stuff is really hurting me, guys. It's really like the Chris Jericho thing. I'm not over it. I'm not over it at all.
What's happening?
Chris Jericho moving over to AEW has me all conflicted about like people breaking up. I don't like seeing people break up is all, you know? But anyway,
hey,
I do like when
every day can't be a new day.
This match of the week is sponsored by Balls Guarana. Do you remember Balls Guarana, the highly caffeinated premium soda in the unmistakable glass cobalt blue bottle? Balls Guarana has fueled the late nights for gamers, techies, and geeks for over 20 years. Balls is still available in the staple original flavor that some say tastes like an uber smooth cream soda. It's also available in 6 flavors: original, cherry, orange, ginger, root beer, and zero. Balls will offer listeners free shipping on their next order of Balls when you visit balls.com to purchase. Use the code FueledByBalls at checkout to receive free shipping on your next order. Free shipping code expires on 12/19 and it's a one-time use only. Free shipping is only available to the U.S. domestic states. Free shipping does not apply to Canada, Alaska, or Hawaii at this time. Free shipping offer is available at balls.com. Thanks so much and enjoy the match of the week.
What's the match of the week this week, big boy?
Fridge, great pick. We're talking a triple threat. We're going to show some love. Kofi. We're going to see Kofi versus Jack Swagger versus Dolph Ziggler. Triple threat at TLC 2010, I believe.
Yep.
For the Intercontinental Belt ladder match. Dude, that was a great match.
I
That
gotta
was a really
say,
fun match.
it was a fucking random match to choose. I know we're talking about
Yeah.
Kofi and Kofi Mania and all that. It's like, hey, let's
Yeah.
choose one where he's using a ladder. That's pretty cool. But going back and watching it, 9 years later, you don't realize how entertaining that one really was, dude. He pulled some fucking Jackie Chan shit when he held on
Yeah.
to the ladder and jumped right through it to do the kick. That was cool. Vicky Guerrero almost taking a bump and hanging onto the ladder up the top. Dude, it was
fun.
some fun shit
Yeah.
there.
It was a really cool match. And what's neat is that was 9 years ago. And I think people have a short-term memory in terms of what wrestling was, 10, 12 years ago compared to 9 years ago compared to now. It did a quick evolution into more of what we have, more of the athletic type of matches. You don't have to be giant muscle-bound. That started to change a little bit in the Attitude Era, but it continued. And then we got somebody like Kofi Kingston, who for a long time, 11 years, it seems, they don't know what to really do with him because he was athletic, he was strong, he had a great body, he had a great look to him. His energy on the mic was a little bit weak, but he was one of the first guys that could hold his own in the ring with the selling and his moveset. He was ahead of his time almost, in a way, because that's what we see now. And people are like, oh crap, Kofi's been doing this for how long?
Hell yeah.
He's been doing it for 11 years at this level. If anything, he continues to get better, which is crazy. Because he has wear and tear. He's been he's been in there a long time. Bless him, no injuries. He's been able to handle it. He's always smiling. I've always been a huge fan of Kofi. And this is a great opportunity for him to get that shine. So it was that match specifically speaks to the fact that 9 years ago, people were popping for him.
Oh, yeah.
He always gets a reaction. He never gets stale.
And let's talk about that match.
They have him highlight like every Royal Rumble match at some point where they have him come in and do some crazy nonsense to keep himself in without feet touching the floor. Like they don't have just anybody come in and do stuff like that. So obviously they know that this man has a certain level of talent that not many people have.
And they're
finally getting it. Yeah, the crowd's always hot for him.
Yeah, always. They always have been. 9 years ago, that was a hot crowd watching him celebrate with him. Or his moves. When he was going up the ladder, everybody was on their feet. 9 years ago, man.
And it had Dolph Ziggler in it, too. I've never been a Jack Swagger fan, so I can't tell if there were big pops for him. But there were a few points in that match, man, where Ziggler ended up putting the whooping on a few people. He hits a Fameasser onto a ladder, onto another person. He puts Kofi in the sleeper hold atop of a ladder. Maybe that's easy. Maybe it's not. I would be scared shitless because I hate heights. But that would be crazy to just imagine yourself getting sleeper hold on top of like a 20-foot ladder. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no thanks. It was crazy.
And that was also when Dolph Ziggler was using the sleeper as a finisher, so it's plausible he could have did something. Crazy, man. Go watch it and drink some balls while you're at it.
And don't be freaked out by Dolph's short hair. It was a weird time.
I'm Doc Jones, reminding you that you can find the Armchair Bookers podcast on Apple Podcasts. You can find it on Podbean. If you pick up your favorite streaming device, go to the podcast store, type in the Armchair Bookers podcast. You're going to find us there. Know where else you're going to find us? You're going to find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Get some fabulous gear on ProWrestlingTees.com. Show that favorite stud or studette what they are with those beautiful t-shirts, or become an official booker by picking up the Armchair Bookers podcast t-shirt. This is Doc Jones signing off, and thank you.
We're basically talking about our top 3 WrestleMania moments for each of us, each of the hosts on the podcast.
Yeah, and that's hard too.
3.
Because
I got 3.
I got 3.
All right, and I also got a worst WrestleMania moment too.
Leave it to Fridge to bring the worst moment.
I'm curious. What is the worst moment?
Let's start with
the bonus. Absolutely. Brock Lesnar beating The Undertaker at WrestleMania 30.
Absolutely.
That's a rough one.
Absolutely.
That's a rough one. Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar.
Wait, I gotta think about this. I was at Buffalo Wild Wings in Parsippany.
That's important.
And I remember WrestleMania was on there because it was the only Buffalo Wild Wings in the area that showed WrestleMania. I was with friends, and I was like, "Oh look, Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar," and they did 1, 2, 3, and Undertaker lost, and I'm like, "Oh, they fucked up." Like I was just like, "Oh, that was such a big botch." Oh my god! And then I went back to drinking my black and blue. But like then they were like, "Oh no, that wasn't a botch."
Yet here
What?
we are. Here we are 5 years later still talking about it. So is it necessarily one of the worst WrestleMania moments? Because there are moments that you'll never speak about.
There's been a few bad ones. There's been a few. That's a bad one.
But let's get to the good ones now that we got the bad one out of the way.
I'll start it up.
Cool.
Mine do involve one wrestler. Two out of my 3 involve one wrestler who I really don't like as a human being. And so it's hard, but they were big moments for me as a wrestling fan. So I'm going to take his personality and person, outside of the character. WrestleMania.
Let me time out you there for a second, Ref. Are we doing one at a time, or are we running down our list?
We can run down our list, and then we'll talk about the whole list. Yeah.
I was just going to do one at a time. All right. Where was I? Oh yeah. So if I separate the personality, I just go off of me as a wrestling fan and what it did for me to lock me in as a lifelong wrestling fan like I am. WrestleMania 3, the easy one, Hulk Hogan slamming Andre. That was like just so momentous for so many people at that time. But for me, like on a personal level, it was just one of those things where I could count on Hulk Hogan. I used to get his ice cream bar. And if I didn't get his, I would wait for everybody else to get theirs. And if anybody had it, I would trade it. Or my brother would go and punch them for it. Really the only thing that he would do nice for me. Anyway, it was really cool. And when I get Andre the Giant, I used to cry. So watching him slam Andre really was, for me, like the biggest thing anybody could do. I was like, he did it for me. It was just, that's how much I bought into Hulkamania. Like, that's how much I loved him. So it was cool. It was amazing. And it hooked me in. I still talk about it with like such passion today because it really did hook me in. We're going through all of them.
Yeah.
The second one I'd go back to Hulk and Hulk versus The Rock, because Rock is my all-time favorite by 1, 2, 3, 4, and he's top 4 out of 5 for me. And then seeing him go up against Hulk, the match itself had moments of awesome and moments of, man, Hulk Hogan is old. But no matter what, it wasn't about any of that. It was about the crowd going ballistic, split down the middle, watching 2 of the biggest names in the history of wrestling to this day, and probably for the rest of days, go at it at WrestleMania. It was just such a cool moment to see them clash up, and they both sold it so well. The Rock did such a great job carrying Hulk, and just the story itself was huge and amazing. And then the third one was something more recent, because it was when my wife started to watch a little bit more. She started to get invested in wrestling. Daniel Bryan winning both straps over Triple H and Batista. That was like, she had tears in her eyes just from watching like the highlights and things. She caught up in one WrestleMania, and she was just floored by like how amazing it was. And he went over and hugged Connor, and I told her about that, and like, it was just, you talk about emotion and you talk about storytelling that just becomes raw and you connect to. That was it right there. So they're my 3, and they're not necessarily the best in wrestling history, but definitely my 3 that stand out immediately.
But they're like, the thing is, they don't have to be like just specific to you. A lot of people, I think, feel the same way about a lot of those matches, man.
Yeah, they were so much fun, those 3.
I'll go next. Because I hit the buttons. I am basically all around one person, and that's Shawn Michaels. I don't know if I've ever said it on the podcast before, but Shawn Michaels, bar none, is my favorite wrestler of all time. So I got 3 matches, and it's not moments, but matches. Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart at WrestleMania 12 in the Iron Man match was basically what got me into wrestling. Like, my brother in Brooklyn, I remember he'd always pick me up. We'd go watch wrestling stuff. Like, he'd take me around. And I remember that was like the first match that he had on VHS that he recorded off a hotbox. And, it's one of those things. You start watching wrestling and you don't show somebody an hour match, but he did. And I was like, this is crazy. And if you listen back to everything, like the Iron Man match, like they weren't like, oh, I don't think we can keep people hooked for 60 minutes. And Shawn and Brett were like, no, we absolutely can. Even so much to where they went to overtime.
Yeah,
and it came down to one super kick. And at that time, there wasn't a lot of like knowledge about like Shawn Michaels backstage. So it was legitimately just like Shawn Michaels really was the guy achieving the boyhood dream. And it was such a good match. Like, I felt every time Bret Hart put Shawn through hell in that. It was fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's a good one.
My second one is Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker at 25. Not the retirement match, but the first one. I don't think you would be hard-pressed talking to people to find a better put-together match. You know, it was two people that a lot would say were past their prime, I think, at that time, but really showing that they still had a lot of gas left in the tank. And it could have gone either way. It really could have. And that was one of the times where they really started making a big deal of like the Taker's streak, because now you're against Shawn Michaels, and it built to such a great retirement match the year after. But that match was one of the best, with one of the best closing moments too, of a moonsault into a tombstone. That's never happened before. And or it never happened to Taker, at least. It's fucking crazy. And like, it was just such a well put together match that to me put the respect of both of them back. Two people that came up from like classic wrestling to now is crazy. My third one is probably one of my favorite matches of all time, Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 21.
Oh, that's
Again,
a good one too.
another long match, but just like Kurt Angle basically giving Shawn hell for X amount of time. And Shawn Michaels and him of two contrasting styles, where just Kurt Angle is working the fucking back in that match, man. But Shawn Michaels at the beginning is doing rest holds. Shawn Michaels at the beginning is keeping Kurt grounded, pissing him off. It just, as the match goes on, it's bloody, it's crazy. Shawn Michaels basically gets pushed to his limit. He gets up, he's got no more, and right at the end, zombie Kurt Angle pops up and hits the most beautiful ankle lock in the world. Grapevines the leg, and Shawn Michaels is, I don't care what they say. Shawn Michaels is in that thing for like 3.5 minutes. I don't care. Shawn Michaels should be fucking dead, and he's not. He's still here, and he got to have the Taker match at 25. It was crazy. It was amazing, and it was like one of those matches that to me will go down as like that should be in like the top 3 Shawn Michaels matches ever, in my opinion. But those are my 3. Damn it, Shawn, I love you. I love you, Shawn.
All right.
Yeah, way to kiss butt, dude. At least I segued into other guys, man.
And none of these were before he cut his hair.
That's true. My first one that I'll start with is there's like so many. Screw it. Let's start off with this one because I think this one's a fun match. Hulk Hogan versus Vince McMahon in a street fight. It's one of my favorite moments because I was thinking about it. Like, I was looking back as a kid and I was like, what match made me go nuts? And it was that match. Like, that match was nuts. Roddy Piper came out, hit Hulk Hogan in the head with a lead pipe, and Hulk Hogan still won the match. Like, it's just brutal. It's violent. It's got one of the best Vince McMahon shots ever with his bloody crimson mask, and he slowly peers over the apron with a smile on his face, thinking he has Hulk Hogan's number. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I love it. It's not a great match technically, but man, is it entertaining.
Respect that.
I had like so many. Just for me, because as a kid, like, I was crying at the end of that match because that match was just one giant WrestleMania moment all the way from his entrance. It was Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, man.
Like, as a kid, like, seeing the end, seeing kind of like the peak / twilight of Shawn Michaels' career, or his renaissance, I should say. And then seeing the end of Ric Flair's, like, dude, when he came out in that robe, the fireworks, like, this was like I said last week, this was the Cowboys' last dance, and it just had that feeling the whole way around, which I think led into great storytelling with the Shawn Michaels Undertaker matches that followed. But like, that match was so like important, I think, as a wrestling fan, to kind of see This is beautiful. It's just beautiful. If you haven't watched it, we even made it our match of the week either last week or 2 episodes ago. Like, just watch it. It's just beautiful. It's almost perfect, because the perfection doesn't exist, but it's almost perfect. My last one, probably controversial, because his name doesn't come up very much anymore. Chris Benoit winning the world title in the main event at WrestleMania, defeating Triple H and Shawn Michaels. The end of that match, I don't care who you are on your feet begging Triple H to tap. You're begging Triple H to tap. It's just beautiful, the way he gets Michaels out of the ring, the way that Triple H almost gets out of the crossface, but Benoit just won't let go. Like, the nothing was going to stop the Wolverine from getting his prey. And then when, like, after that, when he won, and then, like, the way the camera angles worked out, so that when, like, Benoit turned around, Eddie was there, and you saw it as Benoit saw it, and that celebration, fuck. I'm very upset that he is blacklisted from, like, a talking point, because that match, again, is almost perfect.
I'll tell you, I think that match also has one of the best super kick spots of all time from Shawn Michaels, when Chris Benoit's got Triple H in the sharpshooter, and from fucking nowhere, Shawn Michaels looks like he hits the stiffest, the loudest super kick on Chris Benoit, and just puts his ass to sleep. It is probably one of my favorite shots from WrestleMania, so I have to... Damn, that's a good one.
You have some good ones there too. There's a lot of great matches, man.
There's so many good matches. There's so many good moments. It's funny because we're recording this today, March 28th. Excuse me. And 20 years ago to the day, I watched my first ever WrestleMania 15.
That's awesome.
And for me, obviously, it wasn't the best match, but Stone Cold versus The Rock, obviously, one of the first big WrestleMania matches that we get from these guys. The storytelling in that match was actually pretty decent when you go back and really watch it, even for that time. You have Mankind winning a match earlier in the night to be the special guest referee, but get sent to the hospital, only to come back later on while Vince and The Rock are pummeling Austin in the corner. Vince and The Rock end up eating it, and Austin wins the belt. And that for me was a huge moment. 10 years old Stoney watching WrestleMania, you better believe your boy was hyped. Very hyped. So number 2 for me is actually 2 WrestleManias prior to that, because we were blessed with a beautiful match between Bret Hart and Stone Cold, where we get one of the most iconic moments in wrestling history, where you see Austin bleeding, blood just pouring down his face in the sharpshooter, and he doesn't tap out, he passes out, because he is that fucking tough. Going back, watching it, you feel everything that they're building up to with him, and I love the story that they tried to tell with him for all those years. It drew me in, and it will forever be my reason for always being a diehard wrestling fan. So those 2 matches definitely go down as top 2 for me. The final one, as I think Fridge had mentioned, Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels. I'm sorry, I love you. It's one of the best moments in wrestling that we'll ever get. Plain and simple. That's all I can even say about it, because that match, everything that they told storytelling wise, everything that you saw in the ring, you just know it was real. It was more than just the story. It was real. And goddamn.
I guess I'll hot tag in. Yeah, I guess I'll hot tag in. Those are pretty solid. I gotta admit. Austin had quite memories.
I had to go with my boy Austin.
I have no, and speaking about Austin and
you got
your
that
boy,
Stoney 420 shirt.
You knew right where I was going with that one. ProWrestling.com, brand new Armchair Booker shirt, Stoney 420. Holidays around the corner, if you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, let's talk about this, guys.
Nice done.
Now, of course, Curry Man was never in WrestleMania, so he can't be in any of my picks. So I got to go with something completely absurd. So to kick it off, Produce, you mentioned WrestleMania 12, and that actually gave me one of my highlight moments. And we're going to kick it off with Roddy Piper versus Goldust in the Hollywood Backlot Brawl. And you know what I'm talking about, because this one was entertainment at its heyday, because Piper was fighting his domain in California, saying, I'm Mr. Hollywood. Even before Hogan went on to this, against the man that proclaimed himself to be Hollywood, Goldust. And this match was so fabulous that if you go back on the WWE Network for $9.99, yeah, that's it, $9.99, you will find on the WWE Countdown Most Unique Matches, Piper come out and say, I punched Goldust so hard in the head, I broke my hand. With the punch heard around the world. If you go back and watch this match, you know exactly which punch it was. Even from the moments where you had to sit back and going, am I watching wrestling or am I watching the news again? Because now OJ's being chased down the interstate one more time. It was just something that made you laugh and have a good time. WrestleMania is a spectacular, and I think that wrapped it up. Now, as we get in and we're talking about not so much of unification of belts as we talk about what the women's title could be, as we don't know what's going to happen with the SmackDown and the Raw Championship. It brings me to my second WrestleMania spot. Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior in a champion versus champion match at WrestleMania 6. The first time ever we had a champion from a intercontinental state versus the world heavyweight champion, and it come together, and let alone Warrior carrying on the legacy there. The match pretty solid across the board, considering both men honestly can't really wrestle, but the story they told into the ring, it worked out, and it was one hell of a barn burner all the way from the beginning until the end. And then the final one. When you talk about WrestleMania moments, sometimes the moments aren't the main events. This was proven to us as one of the worst moments, and you had to go on after Brock Lesnar beat The Undertaker. The crowd was silent. And there was one other time that this happened, and Ref, I'm not going to bash on your pick, but your pick had one tough spot before it, and this is my top pick. At WrestleMania 3, Macho Man Randy Savage versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat for the Intercontinental Championship. One of the first matches that they have gotten up and say that if you went to the Gorilla Press, every wrestler was there watching them two battle it out across, high, low, as Dragon and Macho Man could only did. When you talk about a scientifical wrestling, and this is going into a day where it wasn't so much of storytelling as they have with cut screens or I'm going to beat you, you're going to beat me. This was something that was thrown together, and they did one hell of a job and pretty much shutting down WrestleMania 3. It was hard. And one of the things that did overtake it was Hogan doing the body slam heard around the world. But very, very closely behind that would have been this top pick of mine. And I think what's really cool about all of our picks here, take a look. Everything's universal. We each pick something because it was a moment in the history and the time that stuck out to each and single every one of us. And that's the reason why every summer we go back and tune in to WrestleMania, whether we watch wrestling or not. It's for moments like this.
Dude, absolutely. And the thing is, I think with, I gotta think whether it was your pick or whether it was Stoney's pick. Oh, no, it was Stoney's with the Ric Flair one. And Fridge's also. It's really interesting to think that WWE tries to manufacture moments now. They try to manufacture things with the Shield. They try to manufacture the Four Horsewomen. They try to do all these things. And I don't know if it's that we're older. I don't think it is. But something like Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels wasn't a match that was really wasn't plausible like a year before time. It wasn't something that you saw coming until they decided to start telling that story. You know, it wasn't something that like you could see it from a mile away. And I feel like that WWE's kind of gotten away from that. You know, I feel like WWE years out are going to show you these things. They're going to call them moments. They're going to call them, you know, they're just going to go down the road of all of these different just like scenarios. And it just seems so interesting that when we talk about our top threes, it's non-manufactured moments. No one, like, no offense, no one was just like, oh, Roman Reigns versus The Undertaker. Because we kind of knew what that was. You know what I mean? It wasn't that. It was all of these moments that really defined wrestling for different time periods.
And I do think that there's, I do think that there's memories that the younger generation than us old farts are going to have from some of the more recent WrestleManias. I think that all across the board they become actually more entertaining. You know, if you look back at the Attitude Era WrestleManias, you're going to find 1 or 2 matches per at most, and it usually involved the same 2, 3, 4 people. I'm not knocking the time, but it was very top heavy, and people tend to forget that when they look at the new era of wrestling. They go, why is there only 6 people to ever fight for the belt? Attitude Era, there's only ever like 4. So it's evolved, and I think people will look back and start to say, oh wow, you know what, this was like the evolution of wrestling in terms of what they do in the ring as much as they do, with the storytelling. That needs to get better. Storytelling in the ring needs to continue to evolve and get much, much better. So that way we can stop focusing on all this stupid back and forth that they can't write anymore. That's just my opinion. But I think we're getting some big moments that are going to be coming from these WrestleManias recently. And I think that we're going to realize it more down the road. Looking back.
I can agree with some of what you're saying, but I really agree more with JK, basically saying like they are trying to manufacture things, like they do it, it's been the new business model for the last 5 to 7 years. Is when they catch lightning in a bottle, they're like, okay, and instead of like taking care of it, they're like, how do we make a machine that copies this lightning in a bottle? And they need to realize that the beauty and the art of wrestling is that it's organic. Like what's supposed to happen is organic. You can persuade or you can coerce things to go a certain way, but for the most part, the crowd tells you who they want. And I think they're trying to manufacture those moments, one, to create content that is consistent. But the problem is it was already consistent. By making it more consistent, you made it feel unoriginal and manufactured. And that's not what we want out of professional wrestling. I just think it's a very interesting time that we're in, that like anything that works, they're like, well, how do we turn this into a machine that can make us money, instead of, wait, let's just see what happens. And I think we just don't have that anymore. And I think that is just maybe the way times have changed. But to that same token, that's how New Japan's always been. It's always been the organic payoffs. Does the crowd like this? What's going on with this? Let's slow play it. Let's see how this matures on its own. And then you have a natural, almost 3-year reign out of Okada. And then you have a star born from nothing like Kenny Omega. And now look who your heavyweight champion is. That was a man from New Zealand who loved wrestling and started at a dojo in New Japan and actually became a young lion, and now is the man holding the highest position on the roster there. Slow plays are what works, and I think seeing the success of outside companies like ROH, New Japan, and AEW, when that starts to kick off, needs to be a wake-up call where you need to let things be their own and not try to manufacture these moments.
I was just gonna say, the problem is Vince doesn't know how to let go of that control. He doesn't know how to let people do their own thing, be their own characters, and have that freedom. I don't think he does, because if he did, we wouldn't be seeing Charlotte shoved down our throats in this WrestleMania main event that we got coming up. I honestly don't believe that he trusts his superstars enough to create the right vibe and character for what he wants. And it doesn't need to be what he wants anymore, because they've come on TV and said that it's not what they want, it's what we want. But it's not really what we want. And that's what I'm getting tired of.
To your counterpoint, we would have never had Daniel Bryan then.
It's interesting too, because you bring up Daniel Bryan, you bring up like how they really listened to it then. It was deafening, man. Like that was something that you couldn't avoid. It was the same thing as what they're doing with Becky now. But I think what they did with Daniel Bryan. Well,
they tried to avoid it with Daniel Bryan.
Right.
And it really didn't. It backfired. It did not work. And that was what made it so amazing that they were like, they lost control.
Right.
They completely lost control of that entire storyline, and they could not get it back because fans would not let them have it back.
Right.
It was incredible.
And just the same thing that's happening with Becky now. People are just going down the Becky train right now, but I think they caught it early enough with Becky to where, like Fridge said, they're trying to like monetize it. They're trying to figure out how to really capitalize on it. But the capitalization they used to do was like, let's capitalize on this momentum and let's push it. It wasn't let's see how much we can make because of how things would go.
Hey, so I love Becky, but John, here's a soundbite for the IG. She stopped being the man when she got sponsored by Head and Shoulders.
Oh no!
Oh boy!
Even the man gets dandruff.
Like,
is that what she says?
Yeah, basically.
Oh, no.
Like you can't. Fuck that. You can't. No, you wait till after you win the belt to do that shit.
Yeah, but if the rumors are true, remember that a large part of these wrestlers' new deals are going to be more TV type deals. So these sponsorships are something that they're playing around with, but you're going to see a lot more of when it's on Fox.
Hey, look, at least it's not like cricket cell phones. Like it's an actual brand.
Dolph Ziggler.
You know what I mean? Like, it could be worse.
And Sasha Banks dancing around with whatever the Cricket wireless thing is.
Yeah, they've always had to market the wrestlers. I'm not too upset over that. I think it's a little bit, it's weird.
It's poor timing.
Yeah.
The ad doesn't match her image and brand that she's built. It's a very careful situation that character is in right now, because she went from being absolutely bulletproof, which I still believed, to the weird fuckery storyline that she's been put in now.
Yeah, which is just trash talking.
It's just bad.
Yeah.
I have a question. I have a question. For the past few minutes, we've been talking about marketing, we've been talking about growth, we've been talking about momentum. And I can think of one show that this has been happening on, and that's the Armchair Bookers podcast. Now, guys, where are we going to be? What am I talking about?
Oh, dude, you're talking about Blackcraft Wrestling on April 5th. No Apologies in New Jersey. Got a bunch of crazy matches including Johnny Blackcraft. We got Saraya Knight. We got both of them challenging and defending their championships. It's going to be a crazy night. And then on WrestleMania Day, which is April 7th, we're going to be at Jimmy's Seafood with the Bullet Club Block Party. We're going to be one of a few podcasts. We'll be covering the event. We're going to be talking to some of your favorites and some of our favorite wrestlers, obviously, and not limited to the boys in the Bullet Club. We don't know.
And of course, speaking of which, guys, don't forget that the Bullet Club Block Party, you can get involved in this as well if you're going to be in the New Jersey area, which we know is a large part of our listening base is. And if not, hey, it's WrestleMania weekend. Why don't you come down for a weekend and see what Jersey has for you? And you can just go online, type in the Bullet Club Block Party. You'll find it right there. Click tickets, autograph sessions, schedules, and not to mention all you can eat Jimmy's Seafood and all you can drink.
Talk about it.
We just did.
You damn right.
But marketing, where else can they find us?
Oh, I'm going to hit this one. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. You could find us on Google Play. You could find us on Spotify. You could find us over there on good old Podbean. You could find us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. You type it in. You type in the Armchair Bookers podcast on that little Google machine, and we will come up wherever you want to look us up. Oh, ProWrestlingTees.com. What do we got, boys? We've been talking about it. Stoney, what do we got?
Oh, the beautiful Stony 420 shirt. It's so beautiful.
So beautiful.
It's a
Simple,
wonderful,
so elegant.
wonderful new collection, along with the stud and studette shirt. Check out my Instagram tomorrow around 6. I'll be releasing my picks for this week's stud and studette, _armchair_ref. And wait, it's going to air Sunday, isn't it?
There you go. There you go, big boy.
All right. It sounded good for a minute, man. It was sounding all right. All right. Well, it's past 11, so.
And how long have we been recording this podcast? How many months now?
Ooh, I don't know. We're almost at a year.
Yeah, and within that year, I am still happy to hold the head up high and say over on Apple Podcasts that this is a 5-star, 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 5-star podcast, people. Get in, vote on it, let them know you enjoy listening to us, and get you the word to your friends. The world needs to know who's being rocket strapped right now.
The 5 of us, the 6 of us can count to 5. That's the only number that y'all need to know.
Which is it, 5 or 6?
Vote for us.
God.
Why are they voting for us?
All
Why are they
right.
voting for us?
Hey,
I'm
guys, I
confused.
guess we'll see you next week. Squaw!